somebody was saying, "Yeah, I'm sorry, I cannot use my phone now because it's not being charged." And I said, "No problem. There's your power bank." And I was like, "Wow, you have a power bank with you." So it was like, I made their day with the power bank.
How you make friends when you're 39?
I remember us calling via Skype, and somebody was dropping the call, and we would have to call again. So the whole setup, and the first greetings were like, "Can you hear me? Can you hear me?"
Hello, I'm Radek.
I'm Michael.
And this is the podcast,
A sounding board for interesting ideas and insights. We discuss books we read and want to share with you,
as well as technology and productivity, which is what we do by day working on our app, Nozbe.
or whatever else comes to mind.
We've done probably a little too long and too rambly episode last week, but I think the topic was really interesting.
Topic was very useful, and especially the fact, what you all mentioned, how you pack efficiently, how you have all these pouches, and how you have everything pre-packed for next trip. Everything. It goes in line with what we always discuss: the pre-packing, pre-deciding. These ideas that are the paramount ideas for the productivity. And as you mentioned, they're paramount for your productivity on the go, or for your ability to be able to be productive and not to worry if you've packed everything. So I think it was great. I wasn't giving that much input because I wanted to listen to exactly how you're doing it, because I was very curious. and I will see if I can be challenged to travel, for example, to our next Nozbe reunion only with a backpack. We'll see about that.
I would totally challenge you to do it.
Yeah. So let's see how this goes. And just a follow up to this episode, I want to follow up with a few things that I have in my backpack and which apparently you haven't said that you had. So, So the thing is, I will show it on video to everybody who's been doing. This is a small pouch of stuff I have for my iPad every time, in my iPad bag. So it's a small thing. I always have it on me. And why is that? Because over there, I have, as you also mentioned, retractable cables, which are very useful. So, for example, Lightning and whatever. What I have additionally is I have a USB pen drive, just as you mentioned, but I have a USB pen drive, which is Lightning and USB. So this way, for example, and it was very cool. My brother, for example, he sent me, he copied something to my USB drive, and I could play it on the iPhone or on the iPad. To see what, he made a video, he copied the video to a USB, and then I could play it and watch it on the iPad, which was very useful.
If only we had USB-C on iOS.
Yes, this would be
great.
Pretty great, yes. So this is very useful for me. And additionally, I have two dongles, which I always take. So the dongle to HDMI, Lightning HDMI, and Lightning VGA.
Yes.
I have both of them because you never know if you want to hook up to a projector, and you never know if they have an old projector with a VGA, which is still the case in many hotels and many places and many conference rooms. I wish they all had Apple TVs and I could just stream it and it would be just beautiful. It would be wireless, but this is not the case. And very often...
when you're presenting, you don't want to rely on wireless technology.
Exactly.
In a big room full of nerds, don't trust wireless. Steve Jobs once trusted wireless. It didn't work.
Especially with lots of nerds.
We'll link,
So, and usually I'm among nerds because I'm a nerd myself. So, good point there. And also, what I found myself is very often I would visit relatives. And I would want to show them something, some video or a couple of photos from my iPhone. And because I have my iPad bag on me, almost everywhere where I travel, I have this HDMI Lightning dongle. So very often what I do is I just plug into their HDMI cable to their TV, and this way I can show them stuff. So it's very, very useful. So these dongles really are important. And also I have, as you also mentioned, a very nice power bank. And I have power bank already with the small USB Lightning cable, like with the shortest one there is from Amazon, of course. So this way I have the power bank, And recently, when I was on a meeting with some parents, because I'm a parent committee at the school, somebody was saying, "Yeah, I'm sorry, I cannot use my phone now because it's not being charged." And I said, "No problem. There's your power bank." And I'm like, "Wow, you have a power bank with you." So it was like, I made their day with the power bank.
How you make friends when you're 39?
Exactly, and another friend I made was another person, and then I gave them the retractable, USB lightning cable. They were like, "Whoa!" Like their mind was literally blown where they saw the retractable cable.
No, I'm not even surprised because I went through that. I guess no one was really surprised about it with me. I guess that's what people expect. But one friend realized that this is something she needs, and she got one of those micro USB retractable cables. And she tells me that it attracts attention of other friends. They're like, "What is that?" Like they're impressed with the technology, and it's like it's just a retractable cable.
Yeah, that's all there is. Yeah, exactly. So you can really blow people's minds like that. And I also have this is important. I have a very small tripod and a very small kind of tripod thingy, so I can put the phone there. So
the phone holder.
The phone holder, yes. So it's all very small. Like the tripod is really very, very, very tiny. It's in here. It's very small. And the cool thing that I find myself using it quite a lot. Like if I want to, show something, I want to record a small video, or I want to take a picture, with somebody in it. So these things are pretty useful. So and again, this pouch goes always with me in my iPad bag, and that's why I don't have to even worry. Like if I have these things.
Yeah, those sound pretty useful. For me, they are they're not necessary. That's why I don't have them. I probably the next time I'm going to be public speaking, I probably will get the Lightning to HDMI or whatever adapter because running presentations from iPad is pretty cool, especially that no one expects it, and they're like, "Whoa, I didn't think you can do that." But yeah, I don't need it, and it's just like for me, it sounds like things that take up too much space. But no, I totally appreciate it.
I think I already mentioned on the show, right? The story where I did the presentation in Japan or from the iPad.
I think you did, but I think you did it a long time ago.
So there is this thing that I was in Japan in Apple Store in Ginza Apple Store, a very beautiful big Apple Store, and they have an auditorium for 80 people, and it was packed with all Nozbe with some of the Nozbe users from Japan. And the best part was I was running the presentation from the iPad, connected to with the Lightning port, and the iPad was dialed in through Skype with our person from customer support in Japanese.
Oh, yeah.
And the iPad was connected with audio jack to their audio. So the iPad was running the presentation and Skype, and she was listening to me speaking, and she was translating it, in real time for the Japanese users to Japanese. So the iPad was running the whole thing, the whole show. And it wasn't an iPad Pro. It was an old, iPad Air or iPad Air 2. I don't remember. But
no,
it was
that was 2012, wasn't it?
No. It was later. It was 2014.
Ah, okay. I thought that was earlier.
No. It was when I was on it with my wife on the trip to Japan, and she allowed me one public appearance and work related stuff. So this is what we did. We did the Ginza Apple Store presentation, which was very cool.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is for packing. So for me that's it. But you mentioned one thing that like the change of mindset, which we haven't gotten to in the last show. That when you travel so much and you become a nomad, what happens?
What happens? Well, it's freeing. It's interesting because you don't feel like you're stuck to this one place. Like every other place is the same. Well, maybe not really, right? I just have with me anything I can pack into a backpack, which is not that much, but it's enough for a week. It's enough for 2 weeks of travel even. So when I feel like being in a different city, I can, and it's fun. And especially, I guess, when you're not, old like you, but you're young like me, then you want to explore. You want to explore the world, and you want to see what it's like in different places. Like, I'm from a relatively small city, and I like it. I like it a lot, and I can live here because I work remotely, and it doesn't. I don't have to be in a big city to have an interesting job. But still, who knows what the future brings? Who knows what I will want in the future? Whether I want to stay here forever, whether I want to move to a different city, to a different country, I don't know. I don't know. But in order to figure out, it's worth it to travel, to be in lots of different places, and get a feel of them, and not just during like really rare short travels, which are very different from regular life, when you're just there to do sightseeing and to relax and have fun. When it's different when it's a vacation, but when it feels like just another week, just better, different city, then you can really get a better feel of what it's like to live in this city, or this country, and that just opens sort of new possibilities, because you can actually spend a good chunk of the year living somewhere else, even though you really live in just one place, right? And get a better feel of different places, and maybe that helps, or maybe it doesn't. Who knows? To figure out what you want to do in life, or where you want to live in later in life. Who knows? Also, it's fun when it's a common pattern how you make good friends in high school, and then you often go study somewhere else, or they go study somewhere else, and they never return, right? And they were friends once, and then they disappear. Or then it often happens again for people, right? You study in some place and you make best friends, but just for a couple of years, and then they disappear from your life and often never come back because they go their own way. And I don't know, maybe that's normal. Maybe that's the way things should be. Maybe that's the natural cycle of life. But for me, that feels really cool when there's people I care about that I made friends with before that are from my city and then spread out over the country, or people I meet, friends I make on the internet, on conferences, on meetups, people who do similar things to what I do, like-minded people, and they don't all live in the same place. Like, to me, that's the old mindset. That's the mindset of Silicon Valley, which is so modern and so future thinking, but you have to be in a 20-mile radius from your VC. To me, that's strange. To me, what feels much more natural is that, different people decided to live in, or just happen to live in different cities, and they're spread out over, many of them in a radius of a couple of 100 kilometers. And anytime I feel like being in that city and spending a week, living, sleeping on their couch, I can. Mm-hmm. And that's really goddamn fun.
Yeah, and I think your point about you being so young and me being so old is also very legitimate. I mean, it's good that you can. I mean, it's good really to be able to check things out, as you said, to see how different places are. Like for me, when I was studying and I was going to Erasmus, to study for a year somewhere, like you become a person who lives there. There is no other thing. Like it's not like you're just visiting Spain and you think, oh, Spain is so good. You have these rosy glasses and everything is perfect. And my country is, is shit. And Spain is so great. It's the best. But then you live there and you're like, not everything is that rosy. Like these are different annoyances that happen here. Well, we have similar annoyances, but in a different scale or different types of. So it's good to know that, and also if you want to, like in Poland, like just in one country, like just you want to explore different cities. You want to get to know them. Get to know how you feel living there. I like it. I think it's a good practice that you're doing, and especially as you said, you're taking advantage also of the fact that our people in our team are spread across Poland.
Oh yeah.
And like one day you're like in Rafał's place, and then someday you're in Marcin's place, and then his daughter gets sick, and
that's really funny when we have the morning Scrum meeting at 10 a.m. and not everyone, not all of the time, but often people sort of turn on their camera. And it's funny when I don't announce that I'm going to some city and I just appear next to Rafał or next to you.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, and my point about maybe it sort of not being the natural cycle of life is that it's new. It's rare. Like very few people have had the opportunity to do it, to live like that. This is only allowed by the fact that I get to work remotely, which is really a new concept. Well, not really. People have been working remotely since 70s and 80s, but on a tiny scale, right? And not only now, it's becoming a reality that more and more, but still not many people are realizing that you can work like that. And if you can work like that like one of the most interesting things is that it creates sort of lifestyle opportunities like this. But before, like people couldn't do it. Going to study somewhere, like all of that was a leap of faith, and maybe that's healthy. Like who knows? Like I don't know, because I don't have historical comparison, because very few people had the opportunity to do it in the past. Usually it's you don't evolve your life like that. You take big leaps, and often like it's a leap of faith. Like you decide, I'll go study in that city, and you sort of disconnect after high school from your parents and your family, and you go to a different city to study there. You meet new friends, and then you decide, this is not enough for me. I want to get a better job, so I have to move to a bigger city to have the opportunities. And it's a leap of faith, and you have no idea what comes after. And who knows? Maybe that's natural. Maybe that's good. Maybe. I'm sure it has some advantages because it's a reset, right? And you get to break all of your assumptions and start from scratch. But it's also really disruptive, and sometimes the leap of faith doesn't work. And so it's really interesting for me to be able to live like that I hold the same job for 5 or 6 years now, because I enjoy it, even though a lot of things change in my life, and who knows how my life continues to change, and I get to explore different cities and countries, and sometimes to go to conferences, and sometimes just because, and that's okay, right? And it's really unusual. Like there's no comparison for me.
Yeah, but once you start traveling and once you start getting to know things outside of your comfort zone, outside of the comfort of your home or hometown, you're a changed person forever.
Yes.
And I see that, like I've seen that, again, when I was studying as an exchange student, I saw the different mindset of people who were traveling and who were on exchange program, or who were local students who before that went on exchange program. It was completely different people than people who would never travel. And
it's so true.
So it was a big comparison.
So I noticed it so many times, just talking to people, how often it's almost a stereotype for Poles to complain how bad things are in Poland. And it, like, over time, like, even though I totally succumb to this stereotype because I'm a questioner and I like to complain about everything, it's different because I have some comparison. I haven't properly lived outside Poland, but I've seen many places. I've seen many countries. And it's sometimes infuriating what people say, because it's like, it's obvious for me that some things they're saying are not true. Like, they don't have comparison. They don't really know. They have an idea in their head that they built by following whatever filter bubble they happen to find themselves in on Facebook, whatever they might watch on TV or hear in radio, and then whatever older people do get their information from, and think that this is better here, things are so bad here or some other place, and oftentimes it's just obvious for me that it's not true, and having raw data doesn't affect people on an emotional level enough. But when you know some facts because you read stuff and not just listen to whatever is on TV, but then you are in different places and you see the differences, then you know that some of that is not true, that it's not so bad here, that it's not really bad at all, except for a few things that are totally broken, and that it's not so rosy there. And
exactly.
And often in like conversations about politics, let's not go into details, of course, but like you hear arguments like, in this country this, in this country that, and you know that it's not true.
Mm-hmm.
And they only have an idea of different places.
Yeah, I have this person in my family that has never traveled, but they watch all the news and all the reports. So they think that based on these reports and based on the programs they've watched on Discovery Channel, they've traveled, they've been there, and it's not true. It's it's just that they have an idea, but they haven't been there. It's like if you, I think it was in the. There's this scene in this movie, Good Will Hunting.
Mm-hmm.
There was this scene that, you can tell me, if I tell you love, you can read me all the poems, but if you have never been in love, you don't know what I feel, right? And it's the same here. If if I say, I don't know, Mediterranean, you can tell me all you have seen in the programs, but if you haven't felt the salty water of Mediterranean and you haven't been, swimming in Mediterranean, you don't know what Mediterranean means, So it's this kind of thing, and it's hard to talk with these people a little bit because, this is the theory that they have, that they've built, using whatever source of information they had, instead of really living the thing.
Yeah, of course, just being somewhere is also not enough. But it also skews your perspective. But it's much more. It affects you much more emotionally when some things are patently untrue. Then it takes just one look to realize that it's not true. Right?
Yeah, and. Also, speaking of remote work and the advantages, is what we discussed in our company, in our team, that very often what people do in our team is that they move. This is not something that happens in normal companies, because they move to the place where the headquarters is. In our case it's just the other way around. They realize, I don't have to live in Warsaw, for example. I can live in my hometown for a while, and because I just I'm just tired of the Warsaw. I want to live in my hometown. The other day I learned that one of our developers moved back to Warsaw, but I didn't even know that he moved back to Warsaw.
Yeah.
Because again, I didn't care. It's his life. I don't care where he is as long as the job is done. So it was within a half a year, I think 7 people from our team were moving or planning to move. So it was this kind of strange situation. And when we just hired a new person to do customer support in Spain, and for her, the benefit of our work was exactly because she has to travel between Poland and Spain a lot. So she said that this kind of work suits her perfectly because she doesn't have to take the days off, just like you said. She can be traveling. She can go to Spain for a few weeks. She'll come back to Poland for a few weeks, and she can move in Poland for a few weeks. Like, she can be anywhere as long as the job is done. Nobody cares where she is. So, so this is, and this was like for her the major benefit of this kind of work, and that's why. In 2018, I'm still so passionate about it and so annoyed about it that so few companies are thinking like this. They're still thinking in terms of, we'll help you move your stuff so you can be closer to the office. Well, 2018, baby. Like,
must be willing to relocate to San Francisco area.
Exactly. And sleep with the homeless. Okay, let's not go there.
$100,000 a year at a minimum sounds good, but not good enough. Not good enough to live in San Francisco.
Oh no, no. You would hardly make ends meet.
Yeah, and just the human nature is that you really quickly get used to whatever situation you're in, and so I noticed myself and other people at the company forget how good and unusual it is, because it's normal, right? Everybody, every organization, every company has its own problems, its own flaws, its own things that it has to work out, its own things that we get annoyed about, but it's a matter of scale, and it's sometimes like. We forget how good it is, the way we're structured to work remotely, and I focus on the things that are still broken, and then sometimes I have to like snap myself back to reality and realize that if I'm annoyed about those things, that means things are pretty good. Because like every time I'm talking with friends, who many of them are still studying, so they have some jobs, but they're not sort of their dream jobs. They're just some job to get some money, and I'm listening to the problems they have to deal with, and I have to remind myself that it's pretty good.
I have that also sometimes, because and I as you know me, my willingness to improve things is constant. I'm always thinking how we can improve things. Like whenever there is a problem, I'm already thinking how to find a solution for that. So I also always believe that our company can be better. We can do things better. We can improve things, and we can keep improving things. But sometimes when we have some discussions in the team, and people start complaining about some stuff, I'm also like you. I'm thinking, guys, seriously, seriously, this is your problem. I mean, go ask anyone else. And how sometimes the way people phrase things is like they forget how the real life is. So
how broken most organizations are.
Exactly.
It never ceases to amaze me. Like I'm serious. Like we keep talking about the same thing over and over, and people are sick of it. But I just every week I hear some story, and I can't believe that most organizations are as broken as they are. Like just another day, I heard a story of someone being employed to do marketing on social media, and she would write, do copywriting for Facebook posts and all sorts of things. But of course, it has to go through 5 or 7 people, stakeholders that have to approve it. And a layer of review is healthy because she might be good at writing stuff, but she might miss stuff. Everybody makes mistakes, and she might not know everything about the domain, about the company that she works for. But of course, it's not just a simple layer of review. What happens instead is that everybody has something to change. Everybody has something to cross off. Some word just doesn't feel right for everybody. And at the end of that 7-layer process, what you end up with is so bland and so boring and so different from the original product that she can't recognize it as her work. Right? And this is like, it probably doesn't surprise most people listening to it, because this is how things work at many places. I guess an advantage of me being a programmer is that, like, when you're doing something very technical, or just in a medium that takes a lot of knowledge to even understand, you don't have people who don't do that messing with your work in a direct way. They can judge the effects of your work, but not your work itself. But every time you have something that's built on language, on words, or like a web design, or like something that people can understand in that medium, then people who know nothing about marketing, who know nothing about copywriting, who know nothing about web design or logo design, think they're entitled to have something to say. To
yes.
have a power to change things. And also they're the boss, so of course they, like, if they want the logo to pop, the designer should make it pop.
Yeah, the thing is that, for example, what I realized, the dynamic we have in our team, it's so sometimes it's even a bit strange, because we are so used to getting stuff done that we are really optimizing a lot. Like the other day, I wanted to chat with one of the people I work with about something, but instead of that, I first put a comment in a task to them, and then I said, so maybe we can chat about it. But this person didn't want to talk to me, because they got the comment right. They said to him, Michael, I get it. I'm going to fix this. No need to chat. And I was like, no need to chat. Like, so of course it's fine. Like, I was happy, but you get it. We don't want to spend this additional, layers or whatever on this, because if I know what I wanted her to do, she knew what I wanted her to do. That's it. She just will do it, and then she will report back to me, and that's it. So there is no need to chat. There is no need for additional status meeting or whatever kind of thing, because she gets it from the comment and she's fine. So and I've seen that, like, recently, especially, like, over and over, like, people, because we are very busy, we have lots of things right now on our plate in Nosby, and we have a small team, so we are really optimizing in order not to have that many layers and not to have that many things. And we still have,
and we iterate. We're just around the corner from doing another, from the directors doing another quarterly review and talking with everybody. But, well, I guess when you call it quarterly review, it almost sounds corporate, but it's nothing but.
It's a quarterly chat. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a quarterly chat, I guess. Last, 3 months ago, we've made many improvements to it. And I guess as for optimizing and efficiency, I really see that in the way I schedule my work and optimize for deep work. We've discussed this a couple of months ago on the podcast, and I explained how I changed the way I planned a week to optimize for deep work. And you know what? We'll have to redo this episode. I want to record it again because I have more ideas. And seriously, like two years ago or something, I did this experiment that I really tracked over the whole week how many hours were true deep work, and it was like 25%, 30%, which was still honestly probably much more than in an average organization. And now I can often get to 50-60% of real deep work in a week. And I'm still dissatisfied. and that's 50-60% while I have more and more responsibilities except for programming. So I have to squeeze in everything else even more. But it's doable. And on the organization level, it's also what you mentioned is really what's really, really important and what we want to preach to everybody is that working remotely is a paradigm. You can't just add working remotely. It's connected to everything. Yes. Which is why it's so hard for companies to change, because you can't just allow some people to work remotely some of the time. It's not going to work super well. And so one of the things that are necessary for it to really work is to learn how to communicate asynchronously. Because if you have a lot of meetings, it's not going to work.
Exactly.
And really, that's also what allows me to travel nomadically a lot, is that we don't have a lot of meetings, and the ones we do can often be arranged to be moved around. So doing meetings while on the go is still possible. I mean, that's not a big deal, but it's less convenient because you have to schedule to be at a specific time, a specific day, whereas my plan is very variable. And so what we do, me and you, with recording of the podcast, is these days we usually record 2 at a time on one day, and we move it around in the calendar to avoid my travel and your travel. This way I don't have to pack recording gear. I don't have to make sure I'm in a spot with good connection. Like, none of those problems exist, and it's not a big deal, right? Or we often skip Design Fight and do it every other week. Or when there's some call I have to schedule with someone, I'm like, you know what, can we move around some tasks so that we do it on the Monday? And usually it's not a problem. And this way I can sort of clear my week so that it's much easier. It's even easier to travel while working remotely.
Yeah, completely. And that's the thing. So we really keep optimizing for that. And this is really what as you said, having everything ready to be working remotely. It's so important. I can see that, when my wife, she works on a big organization, they let her work from home from time to time. And I see how awkward it gets. Like, she cannot attend a meeting because, of course, she would have to be there. And then the access to the computers sometimes works, sometimes it's broken or whatever. Like, it's not set up for success. And it's not set up for it's the same as you want to be iPad only, but you don't really set up your tools and your workflows for that.
Yeah.
It's a very similar situation. You have to, really be full in to be able to experience the benefits. And the same is here. Our company is set up to be remote. So as you mentioned, our way of working, asynchronous way of working, comments and tasks in Nozbe, the meetings, Zoom, like all these things are set up for success. So we can really work from anywhere, and especially, I think Zoom was a game changer as far as video conferencing, that you can really dial in from any, mobile phone, and then it just works and the connection is good.
Because we have the point here is that we have channels. So there are some recurring things like Design Fight, like the podcast, like the directors meeting, the marketing meeting, and they have just pre-assigned channels, and so you can make shortcuts for them, and we automated through workflow and stuff. Yes. And you made some website with scripts so that you click one button and you are in a specific channel.
Exactly. So we the barrier of entry is very low, and it always works. Instead of I remember us calling via Skype and somebody was dropping the call, then we would have to call again. So the whole setup and the first greetings were like, "Can you hear me? Can you hear me?" So
yeah.
So this is the setup is made for that.
Well, what I wonder about is how do we teach that? Because we are in a position where we feel like we really want to show others that it can be done and how it can be done. We do take advantage of it. So for us, it's obvious. For others, it seems impossible. And what it does, it gives an opportunity to us. The more broken other organizations are, the more chance we have of actually finding a niche in the industry and having a good business that can pay our salaries. And the larger the organization is, the stronger they are, but also the slower and more broken it gets. So it's an opportunity for us, but we also want to teach it because it just pains us so much to see the brokenness. And it can be a really great marketing tool for us, for Nozbe, to show that it's not just an app, but there's so much you can learn from us about productivity in general. But it's so hard because it's a paradigm, because it's not just one thing, because it's 100 things connected together. And it's so hard. Like how do we get around to explaining it to people when you can't just make one step, but you have to change a lot of things at the same time? Like actually, just yesterday I was talking with a friend about complaining what we discussed not that long ago, talking about the education system, the schooling system, and how broken it is. And it's a similar feeling. A lot of parallels to what we were discussing. The thing about the friend who's a marketer. Well, it's the same thing with the education system. One of the reasons why all of what's taught is so boring is that everything that's not boring has been cut out, because for someone it was controversial and it had to go out. And so anything that is taught, like by definition, if the process of figuring out what's the material that kids need to learn is governed by the process where there's a large committee and everybody can pretty much veto something they don't like, by definition, what you get is an extraction of the most boring and bland things that don't matter. Because everything that does has been controversial to someone. And also, like, the reason why it can't be just changed, why it's so broken everywhere, is because it's a paradigm. Because it's not as simple as, let's give kids iPads, right? Like that doesn't work that way. You have to break everything and start from scratch, and completely change your mindset about what education is, what's its purpose, and start from scratch from the assumptions of the 21st century and not the Industrial Revolution. But because it's a paradigm, it's so hard to change.
Yeah. One of my ideas was, as we already discussed this, is to finally write a freaking no office book. But it's I don't have time for that right now. I mean, I'm so busy with work that I don't have time for that. I mean, this is why we do the podcast, so at least I can share some of it, and I can, with you, discuss these concepts. But at some point we will have to, because even though there are other companies, bigger companies, like for example Automatic, so the makers of WordPress, they also work remotely. Buffer, they also work remotely. So there are a few other companies that are also teaching that, and which is really good, which is really cool. But we are just we are all unicorns still in this. And this is unbelievable. I remember vividly when we were talking about TGIF, how we implemented it. And, we've been doing it for 1 year and a half, Radek. So for 1 year and a half, we're doing TGIF, and we haven't changed the policy, and we don't want to change the policy actually. So, but I remember when one of the journalists was interviewing me for that, he was attacking me like I'm an idiot, letting people decide what to do on Friday. And it hurt me, that he would treat me think of me as an idiot. I don't care what the guy thinks, but the assumption was that if I'm doing something different, controversial, but good for the people, that they will take advantage of me, and I will be the loser in this thing. So and I don't think you are taking advantage of me.
And I think it's completely the opposite. We've been doing it for 1.5 years, and I feel like we still haven't figured it out, how to take advantage of the opportunity to learn and do other things.
Exactly. Our Fridays are still crap. If you our Fridays are still not ideal as we hope they would be. So we have still lots to learn there.
Yeah, we still haven't figured it out. So it's it's completely opposite of what the journalists thought the danger is. The danger is that no one cares. That's overstating it. But the point is that we're not really even using the opportunity, even though it's policy, and we still haven't figured out how to make it part of the culture, right?
Yes.
I didn't, right?
Yeah.
And I've been sort of there with you trying to figure out what it should be.
Yeah, but the good things, for example, the good thing is that really, like, every time people post on Slack that they have done a weekly review, I'm happy. And when I review the tasks and I do my weekly review,
that's true.
I'm really happy. I can see that the tasks disappear. I can see they're updated. It's so cool. This is so good. And yeah, but like really, in grand scheme of things, well, it brings me a little bit to the subject that I wanted to share today, which like a little bit, because like the good thing that we have, and this is something that I said, I keep improving, but I keep improving because whenever we do something wrong, I take the blame for it. I think it's my fault. Mm-hmm. So, and this assumption, this is my fault, doesn't wear me down. It helps me own this, and when by owning this, I can make it better. I can change it, and in the society, and I think this is also one of the reasons why people complain so much and whatever, because people don't own their stuff. Or speaking it American, they don't own their shit. You know what I'm saying? So the problem is people are, because again, people are not empowered to change, or they feel they're not empowered to change, or the processes in the companies or in the teams are done so that they don't feel that they should be changing things. And I think one of the difference in our company is the fact that I hope we are all empowered to change, because we are empowered to question things. We are empowered to be complaining in order to improve. So in like and even then, even if other people make mistakes in my company, I still own the mistake. I still, the buck stops with me, so it's my fault. And this really, this kind of owning this is for me liberating, because it gives me the power, the force and the passion to change it, because I don't want to see this mistake ever again. So instead of blaming this on somebody, I blame it on myself, and I'm like, okay, Michael, you screwed up. What do you do? And I think this is the kind of mindset that people should be having.
Yeah, because this is something that I don't get why people don't get. It's
yeah.
It's healthy because, well, it's healthy unless you make it unhealthy. Like if you take the blame, but you take it emotionally, then it's not healthy.
And you want to do seppuku because of that,
Yeah, that's stupid. And like, even if it is your fault, it's stupid, because the feeling of guilt is not constructive. It's never helpful. That doesn't help you change. But the point is that if you take the blame, then by definition, by assuming it's your fault and you could have done something to prevent it, you are giving yourself agency to do something about it.
You give yourself power.
Because if it's someone else's fault, then there's nothing you can do about it. If it's your fault, whether or not you actually caused it, then you can do something about it. It's as simple as that. Because even if you didn't do it directly, maybe you can think of a way to prevent it in the future. Maybe you could have.
Exactly.
And it's not that you should, feel guilty for it. It's that you should prevent it from happening again. But you could have.
Be more creative then.
Yeah, you could have made the system so that it could never happen. You could have, had whatever. Like it really, like, it applies to any situation. Usually there is some way in which it could have been prevented, and if you decide that that the buck stops with you, then you have power to do something about it, even if indirectly, even if it's not actually sort of your department. You can think of a solution and suggest it, and it's going to be implemented because, well, hopefully, because you've just given someone a solution to prevent it from happening, right? And I guess it also ties nicely to another thing we've mentioned about the paradigms, that because people, like, paradigms don't change because people don't think like that. Paradigms happen in complex systems, okay? In big complex systems with a lot of parts and a lot of people. And if it's a paradigm And so to be changed, like everything has to be ripped out and changed. Then everybody has to, do their part, because no one person can overthrow such a complex system. And if everybody thinks they don't have the power to do anything about it, that it's not just outside their power, that their authority, but even like the bosses think that it's outside anybody's authority because it's impossible, then it's just never going to happen, right? But if you decide that it's your fault, then you decide that something can be done about it, right?
Yeah, and as you said, for us it's obvious, but for many people it's not. Like the obvious thing is the other thing, is blaming on everyone else because you think it takes you off the hook. And for me, what good does it bring me if it brings me off the if it takes me off the hook, if I don't do anything about it, and if it's gonna happen again, I don't want this happen again, or not at least soon. So then I think then I prefer to take the blame and to take the opportunity to find a way to prevent it or to fix it or whatever.
Yeah, that is really strange for me, because like, why would you prefer to feel angry with someone that they've done it? Like, it doesn't matter that it's not your fault. It's not a fun feeling to be angry with someone for screwing up. Like,
exactly, it's not fun.
Why do this to yourself?
Yeah, exactly. Why do this to yourself?
I don't understand it. I just don't. All right, we've started this long, windy, rambly episode about 100 different things, but we've talked about 100 different things, but we've started with travel. So let's end with an unrelated thought about nomadic travel that I didn't fit in last episode. Which is that I forgot to mention one last thing that really makes it much easier to travel and to do it easily and to do it often, which is that when you don't do it often, then everything is stressful because you haven't gone through it. And it's not just over time it gets easier, but that like sometimes you just have some sort of crazy, insane adventure, and it immunizes you, it desensitizes you. Like that time in 2014 when I was robbed in San Francisco, right? That was really scary, and I remember. Yeah, and I had to go to a different city to get a new passport. I had to figure out how to be able to fly back home later. Had to figure out how to get by when I didn't have my phone, when I didn't have my passport. It's really tricky. It was really difficult, and I dealt with it. And I enlisted people that helped me. You helped me, but the point is that in the end I was fine, right?
Yep.
Like it was so hard, so difficult, so many things went wrong and had to go right. But in the end, I was fine. And when you go through something like that, like that story, I would not wish on anybody. But the point is that most people have some insane story like that in their life, like getting mugged in San Francisco. And when it happens anyway, then some people might not have as constructive response to it as I did, but for me, after getting over it, it really made me stronger because I know that if I dealt with that, everything is easy. Everything is not a big deal by comparison, or even not as insane things, but. Like last year, the logistics required to go to WWDC and to visit Florida and Kennedy Space Center, and all the logistics required to do the Panama trip last year, that was a lot. That was really stressful. But now doing something similar would not be very stressful because you have the confidence that if you've dealt with it once, you can do it again. So, yeah.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But, as if you live through these experiences, as you mentioned, they make you stronger and they make you, as you said, more immune. But also, gives you perspective on things in life and on what's really important and what's really annoying. That things that are not that are a bit annoying are not that annoying. Don't really matter.